All right. So good morning, everybody. And I'm happy to be here for our panel on the Future Food Hub and the Boston Bioeconomy. I'm Matt McNulty, Associate Director for the Tufts University Center for Cellular Agriculture. And I was excited to be here, and now I'm stoked. So thank you. Our panel today will focus primarily on the role and the nature of innovation hubs and how this fits into the ethos of our regional ecosystem, the Boston Bioeconomy. But before we jump into what will be an engaging discussion with our panelists here, I want to take a few minutes to underscore some of the points that our provost mentioned in her opening remarks about our Future Food Hub initiative here at Tufts. For those of you who joined last year, you'll know that the concept of a Future Food Hub has been something that's been close, like top of mind for us for some time now. Our hub initiative is a response to a question we've been hearing in the field for years now. Why is there no place in the US for end-to-end cell ag prototyping and scale-up? The mission of our hub initiative at Tufts is to respond to this question by building an integrated innovation pipeline that allows us to explore future foods and materials by bringing together academia, industry, and government. The decision to build a hub follows us watching the field develop for years. As you all know, investors have been tightening their belt for some time now, and so startups are increasingly looking for asset-light approaches. As David was mentioning, academic researchers now have access to many of the foundational R&D building blocks, but they still lack the infrastructure to be able to bring those all together and ask integrated research questions. B2B players in industry have continued to proliferate, and they need a landing pad for end-to-end functionality where they can plug into and test. And more established industry players have continued to refine their near to midterm product targets, which has meant that they've had to forego or even shunt exploratory assets. All these conditions together create a perfect environment and a strong demand signal for shared use innovation hubs. So what does that mean for what we're teeing up here at Tufts? Well, at the core of our upcoming Future Food Hub at Tufts, we're building a specialized and shared use R&D facility for end-to-end cell ag innovation. This spans cell culture operations, food tech and material processing, advanced analytical characterization, and an even test kitchen. So we're designing for a wide range of needs here. Co-located alongside this multi-pronged R&D facility will be an incubator for specialized cell ag startup needs. This will be open to the public, not just to Tufts affiliated ventures. The open cell bank, which you'll hear more later about today, but which brings convenient access to workhorse cell lines. And the Tufts Food and Nutrition Innovation Institute. This existing initiative at Tufts already runs the world's largest and most diverse food systems innovation consortium in the world, and we couldn't ask for better partners to tie us into that broader food system ecosystem. But if we talk about the structure of the hub, I also want to take a second to talk about the spark for making this happen, which really comes down to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts' commitment to innovation leadership. For us, this was with MassTech and their M2I2 program for advancing concepts to prototypes, and this made all the difference. As MassTech partnerships tend to do, I'm learning, this really catalyzed our how we were thinking about and progressing towards our innovation hub concept at Tufts. And if you'll forgive a quick moment of being a proud jumbo here, I have to say that none of this would have been possible, of course, without the innovation mindset here at Tufts. You heard it today with David and Bruce in our opening remarks, and you're going to hear it in the rest of the sessions. But I want to share one other moment that really stuck with me and I think underscores our approach here, which was earlier in last year, we had Tufts was hosting the Council on Competitiveness for a conversation on the next gen innovation economy. And there was one comment, it was actually a resolution by Tufts University President Kumar that he made that universities need to move away from a centripetal model where we're expecting communities to come to us as academics, and we need to move towards a centrifugal model where we go out, seek out, and strengthen our communities proactively. It's with this underlying philosophy that we're excited to move into the next phase of our Innovation Hub, our Future Food Hub program here at Tufts, which is program launch. We plan to launch later this year, starting summer 2026. We strive for this to be an anchoring asset for and by the community. And so please come talk to us. We'd love to chat, see how we can build stronger together. With that, I'm excited to open up our panel discussion. We'll start with a round of self-introductions. Lily, if we can start with you, and then we'll take it down the line from there.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everybody. I am Lily Fitzgerald. I am the director of the Center for Advanced Manufacturing at MassTech. MassTech is a state economic development agency for Massachusetts. So we're entirely state funded, and our job is to invest in innovation across the Commonwealth that will generate jobs and economic benefits for the residents of Massachusetts. So we, our more high profile program on the Center for Advanced Manufacturing side is the M2I2 program. So we're very thrilled to be able to support the Future of Food Hub. I got that right?
Nailed it.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Adam Jenkins, Regional Director for BioLabs. For those of you who don't know who BioLabs is, we are a global innovation infrastructure company with the goal of creating both the physical and the community backbone for life sciences companies in general. Some of you may know we have a site already with Tufts at Tufts Launchpad in downtown Boston. And what we provide is state-of-the-art scientific capabilities, community building, as well as very deep connections to both government and private equity funding sources. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Adam.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Sun. I'm the Senior Director of the Technology Commercialization Office here at Tufts University. We are the tech transfer office for the university, working very closely with our researchers to identify, protect, market, and help to commercialize the innovations and the inventions that are coming out of the amazing research here at Tufts. My background is in physics, physical sciences, but certainly over the many years that I've been working at Tufts, have had an opportunity with my team to work across the board, all campuses, all schools. David Kaplan's research group and the Cell Ag Materials Innovations initiatives are an increasing percentage of the innovations that are coming out of Tufts and that our office is working on. So David is definitely keeping us very busy.
Great, thanks for the intros. To kick off the panel discussion, I think it almost goes without saying that Boston is well known for its life sciences, and the term future foods implies that it's something on the cusp. And so my question is first, I want to start with Lily for this one. So Lily, like, how do you see future food and material innovation fitting into this broader Boston bioeconomy, which has been dominated by life sciences?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think maybe first off, a lesson that the state tends to take about life sciences is that was Boston becoming the hub that it is for life sciences and medical innovation was not inevitable. That came out of very deliberate and massive investments that was quite cutting edge at the time. First under Governor Deval Patrick, and then Governor Baker, and then under Governor Moore Healey, renewed investment in this time and again. And that took a lot of fostering and cultivation and very deliberate strategy on the state's part. And so I think maybe just starting there, I think about opportunities to try to mirror that and seed a future hub here with those lessons in mind. I think broader bioeconomy, like there are some advantages in co-locating food tech with fantastic life science research and infrastructure and the hub that's here. There is physical infrastructure that can be leveraged for alternative proteins and for cell ag, which is fantastic. I think the most transferable is the talent. David, of course, is a perfect exemplar, but so many of the students that end up studying at Tucka came from a more life sciences undergrad, perhaps, and then shifted their research into the cell ag space. So we have a huge advantage there, especially, I would say, at a time like now where the life sciences sector in Boston has really had to do some shrinkage. And so we can leverage that as an ecosystem. But there's also really key differences, and I think that the state really does recognize that the set of challenges from regulatory commercialization, funding access, investors is different, right? And so I think it does have to be treated differently and fostered in a different way.
Yeah, thanks for that. And honestly, as you were speaking, I was thinking of something that David had said before, which is really that, like, with the life sciences skill set being the backbone of cell ag, maybe it's like sort of pie in the sky, but we think of, Massachusetts has not been the history of agriculture, but by leveraging our life sciences expertise, it can be a leader in the future of agriculture. And that's one of those points that I feel like is one of those lines that has really stuck with me about that transition. Does anyone else want to add to that?
Just to quickly add, from the Tufts University perspective, it's very true. I'd say that this push into cellular agriculture, future food, is not so much a new direction, but it's really a natural extension, a logical progression, building on and leveraging all of the existing research expertise and strengths of Tufts in the more traditional life science arenas. So, decades of research in tissue engineering, tissue repair, wound healing, comprehensive three-dimensional tissue model systems, all of that just sort of naturally lends to this now strong push in the cell ag and future food space, and a lot of the pre-existing materials innovations now being applied more specifically in those realms.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bart. Okay, well then let's stick with Martin to kick off our next question then. I didn't realize this Slido was going to be up here, meaning that we can't just like pick softballs from this. So I had already baked in a couple hardballs into our panel question, not thinking we would have more in front of us. So with that, I want to start off with you sort of setting the scene. Like one of the most common critiques of academic innovation is that it doesn't make it out into the world, and that it gets stuck within the university. And when I was looking up on your background, Martin, I learned that you've actually supported about 50 startup launches in your academic role, which is really impressive. And I was like, wow, okay, this is incredible. And to me, that shows that you've got a pretty good sense of how to defy that notion, that common critique. And when we think about innovation hubs, really how to smooth that interface is so core to the operation. So my question to you is, how do you overcome this critique, and how has your experience in operating at this interface really informed your approach to designing an innovation hub that can play well with both academia and industry? And if you want to have and plug any features about our future food hub, you're welcome to do so. Don't feel any pressure to.
Thanks, Matt. I guess from my perspective, it is a comment that I hear often. Many of us commercializing technologies from academic settings hear often. I would say that it's perhaps more productive to reframe the conversation. It's not so much that academia doesn't play well with industry. We should absolutely acknowledge that academia and industry are truly quite different. And there are differing missions, motivations, incentives, timeframes. All of that is very much true. That being said, I think acknowledging those differences, we can still very much proactively structure relationships to leverage the complementary strengths of academia and industry. If we were to just, if I was to just zoom out to the national scale for a moment, we're celebrating the 45th anniversary of the passage of the Bayh-Dole Act. And it is something that arguably has helped establish the most successful national innovation engine in the world. For those who are not familiar with federal legislation, it gives universities, research institutions, the opportunity to directly own the inventions and the discoveries that result from research efforts, largely funded through federal sources of funding. But it also gives, it also places on the research institutions the obligation, the required commitment to diligently protect those innovations, market them, and ultimately find ways to enter into commercial relationships with industry so that those innovations can be successfully transferred out of the research lab and ultimately turn into products and services that benefit the public. And so I'd argue that we actually have, in decades of concrete examples and looking nationally, very good reasons to say that academia and universities and industry can actually work quite well together. And there are many different models of interaction. So at Tufts University specifically, we very much are leaning into this reality, and we work hard to establish comprehensive, robust industry-sponsored research relationships, companies sponsoring very small, discrete projects to broad, comprehensive research initiatives. In the Tech Transfer Office, we continue to strive to make commercial license negotiations more streamlined, more efficient, entering into commercial relationships, managing those relationships moving forward. Inevitably, commercial realities change, companies need to pivot, being mindful of that and being willing to be flexible to adapt and change the relationships as necessary. We have very entrepreneurially minded faculty, students, postdocs, and they often are the driving force behind many of our successful commercial ventures. We have also very important Tufts ecosystem components to take advantage of. The Derby Entrepreneurship Center provides a wealth of educational programming, mentoring opportunities, new venture development, competitions. The Gordon Institute has engineering management, innovation management, master degree programs, and student cohorts in those programs work throughout the year to develop concrete business plans in anticipation of graduating and launching those companies. They then license technologies from Tufts, and many of our more recent successful startup ventures are the direct consequence of these student-initiated projects. We also have a wealth of core facility resources, research service offerings across campuses. And so it's within this backdrop of this existing ecosystem that we've worked hard to establish over many years that we are now talking about the Future Food Hub. And you and the rest of the team at Tucka alongside Tufts have, I would say, have been very thoughtful in designing the Future Food Hub in a way to really leverage all of the strengths of the existing ecosystem, all of our learnings over the decades. It's really great to see the pillar components working together, the open access cell bank, the physical incubator space for new ventures, leveraging our existing relationship with BioLabs, the specialized core facilities to really benefit, in particular, startups focusing on food and materials innovations. So looking at all of that, I'd say that, again, rather than saying academia doesn't play well with industry, we've worked hard to find ways to interact with industry in meaningful ways, in complementary ways. And one final thing about the Future Food Hub, a very important component, I would say, is the physical co-location of companies, industry representatives, physically alongside the Tufts research enterprise. And that really will help to generate and foster not just ongoing collaborations, but really co-creation of new opportunities, new innovations to really drive this space.
Thanks, Martin. And I want to underscore one point about how hard this has been and how much props I have to give to you and everybody else by being self-deprecating for a second, which is really if we talk about cell line distribution, which is really one of the core things that we're known for here, cell line development, cell lines are what we're known for, right? I had a hand in some of our early work in helping with the distribution, and I can't tell you how many times that I stumbled over figuring out customs paperwork, figuring out how to keep the cells at the right temperature, unexpected charges from our distribution person, and I think I have to then pile some shine onto Natalie Rubio and the team and Andrew to say that it has been so awesome watching it start from something like that into what they're doing with the open cell bank. So I hope they talk a little bit about some of those processes there, because to me, that's a great example of how we've had to really fight to work well at that interface, which I can speak from sort of humbling examples. Maybe I need to post that. If we ever have a wall of shame at Tucka, I'll post some of my email threads on there. We can see where that goes. But
Well, I don't think we need to pile onto Matt here, but you've done incredible work building out this hub. But if I could add on to what Tufts has done so well, and why we at MassTech invested 2.1 million, which I saw a question about the overall budget, and I'm all about transparency. So for reference, MassTech, we usually get for M2I2 $7 or $8 million per year from the legislature. The acceptance rate for this program is currently 8%. These are capital dollars, so they can be used to invest in capital physical infrastructure. And there is so much hard tech in Massachusetts, and there's so much need for this. And it is a unique type of funding in that it can enable these capital investments. And there's so much innovation here that there's a lot of demand. I wish we had a higher acceptance rate than 8%. But just to underscore, this was a really significant investment from our end to put 2.1 million into this hub. MassTech has been around since the 80s, and we have been investing in innovation and hub creation so for several decades, right? And I think one thing that we're always trying to figure out, how can we centralize infrastructure in a way that makes it so that we're not just investing in individual companies, which we do, but make an investment that will benefit an entire ecosystem and be able to be reused over and over again for taxpayer stewardship. But it's really, really hard for academia and industry to collaborate in this way. And I think what was so refreshing about this proposal and how thoughtful you and David and Natalie and everyone else was with this idea is the co-location of companies, absolutely key. We see Tufts being such a leader in academia for entrepreneurship, like Natalie running BioLabs as a completely new institution and concept, and the incubator, and the concepts behind the actual physical infrastructure and how to make those most useful and accessible for companies. And you have entrepreneurs in residence, and you told me the other day, which makes complete sense to me, you have investors in residence, right?
That program actually just launched, and we're going to be lucky to hear more from Steve later today.
And that's so unique and fantastic, and it just, Tufts really is leading the way and bridging the gap between industry and academia, because as Martin said, it's hard. Fundamentally, there's different incentives, there's different ways of working, and it's been really fantastic to see how Tufts is overcoming that.
Wow, thanks, Lily.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think it's important to note that not only industry and academia working together, I think there's no way around that, but also the government being involved in facilitating a lot of those things, being completely aware that there are different incentives, as we said, but getting into a boardroom, you're never going to have that experience as in an academic setting or in a government setting. That's something that you can only experience during industry. But at the same time, if you've ever had an experiment fail and it's just you as a 20-some-odd-year-old student, you won't get that in any other way as well. So understanding that what you gain from each one of those individual groups and stakeholders in something like this, I think is paramount. And I don't think there's any way to do something like the Food Hub without all three groups together.
That's a great point. And one of the things we really want to preserve is allowing students the chance to fail at this hub. Using this hub as a place for them to have workforce development that gives them hands-on experience with manufacturing where they can make some flubs, but also that then doesn't impact negatively any of the industry players who are keen to come in play. So there's a lot that we've been thinking about that way. So how can you balance both and think about those needs that drive? That's a really good point. So more to come on that soon, but something we really think about deeply. Okay, so let's just double check. All right, so you know what? We're going to keep with Adam here for our next question to kick things off, which is really about the needs of the future food and material sort of as an emerging bioeconomy space or spaces. And this can be quite different from an established space like the biopharma sector, say, in Massachusetts. And so when you think about how you're designing around these different sectors, how are you, walk us through how you're thinking about this and different decision points that you make, which I presume for you will be about incubators, unless you have a second life to unveil in front of us all today.
Yeah, so it's important to think about that we're making bets on the future as much as everyone else is, as much as the investors are and the government players, because the science that are coming out of the academic side is really what's going to determine what is in an incubator space or what is in type of a hub of this manner. So it's a lot of conversations with those people who are doing the work with the industry players on what they think is going to be commercializable and what we've seen over the years. So we will make investments in the space that will not be utilized and that we do not know, until it's actually up and running, that we think will work. But it's important to remember that it is an ever evolving space. We heard before with David and Bruce that 10 years ago, this wasn't here. Now that it is here and we're going to start moving much faster with spaces like this, what we're going to see in 5 years is going to eclipse what happened over the last 10. So the pace of play and the pace of innovation and the pace of failure will speed up significantly in a space like this. And I liked what we said early on with, if we say that in healthcare and life sciences, 96% of things are going to fail, and that's a badge of honor. We shouldn't be building the food and the cell ag space of, if we also fail at 95%, that's better than other industries, and we should start to see that and think of it that way. So as we make those investments in the space and as we make those decisions and the investments in the type of both the instrumentation and the type of companies we're going to support, that's going to be ever evolving, from day one. And it's important to realize that that's the way it should be. And if it was static and it was something that was just smooth sailing, something's probably wrong and we're not investing correctly. So understanding that failure is at the core of this, from a company standpoint, and the research, that it's something that we should embrace.
That's a great point. And as you're talking about that, I think about how challenging that is to keep that zoomed out perspective on the importance, like sort of the stochasticity to it and the nature of that risk and that failure, especially particularly when your students are developing and there's workforce development, that it's hard not to get an emotional attachment to some of those forerunners who you pin a lot of those aspirations onto. So I'm going to lean on you and BioLabs for keeping us grounded in that respect when we go through that turbulence.
Yeah, it's the hardest conversation that you'll ever have with a founder of, hey, I think it's time to pack up shop and, move on to the next thing, because a lot of the researchers, especially the ones who have commercialized or are trying to commercialize out from academia, they haven't known anything else. They've put 5-6 years into a piece of work and they haven't worked in other areas or other aspects or explored those type of things. So fostering ways in which you can learn beyond what you're currently researching is really, really valuable, in ways in which we rely on David and Martin and some other people who can have a much broader view of the research areas and what's kind of out there, to just always make sure that people know that even if this didn't work, there's a lot more else that's still down the road to work on.
Okay, part-time therapist. That's your second life, I think.
Yes, there are chairs over there if anyone wants to sit down afterwards.
Okay, then we can move on from that, and let's go back to Lily here to kick us off. So zooming out a little bit about how do we put innovation hubs into the Massachusetts context more directly? Let me get this mic up a little higher. So, I might be biased, but I see the way that MassTech approaches innovation and manufacturing in Massachusetts to be, second to none. It's sort of the best that it gets. And it seems that your approach is really driven by community-oriented pushes. And so I'm thinking of things not only like the M2I2 program, but was really impressed by the state leadership in bringing like state-level tech hub programs, which you recently launched I think was it not earlier this year, sometime last year. So I'm wondering about in that context, what do you think about with the Innovation Hub ethos, and what advantages come with distinctly having that in Massachusetts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think briefly on the tech hubs, maybe to start. So if y'all remember 2023, the Biden administration released the EDA Tech Hubs program. The concept of this was, let's create hubs for tech development that are outside the conventional hubs. So to be honest, they were like, let's not do Boston, let's not do San Francisco, Research Triangle, maybe Seattle. What other cities in the US can we invest in and enable this kind of hub creation? Mass did not get, none of the proposals that Massachusetts government was directly involved in were funded through there. There were some that a couple of Massachusetts players participated in, but in general, it was kind of a loss for the state. We did not get any funding here because I would argue that DC often thinks Massachusetts is just Boston, which we are not. But the Governor Healy and then Secretary Yvonne Howe said, let's do it anyway within Massachusetts, and let's come up with this concept about there are other parts of this state that have a very different economic profile. One stat I often think about is I think that the median household income in Springfield is 1/3 what the median household income is in Boston. And Springfield is a real city with a significant population and lots of nearby research and innovation. So where can we invest in different parts of the state to enable that? One hub that got invested in was Western Mass, Amherst, very tied to UMass Amherst and Western Mass economic development as a food hub. And I'm sure that UMass will be collaborating with Tufts and Tucka, as I know that they already do, between, really their prowess about studying food from a very holistic perspective, really cutting edge research into food safety and food innovation and nutrition. So we think about like, where can we pull more of Massachusetts residents in? But I think we also, like I mentioned before, we're always thinking about where can we get the most bang for the buck. We have this very small budget relative to the need in the ecosystem. So hubs are always appealing to us, but often they don't work out how we might expect because of that lack of strong connection between industry and academia, or underutilized resources are the thing that we fear the most, because my team, we buy equipment, we buy physical equipment, and we help invest in facilities. And so it's very hard to recover that if that investment doesn't go anywhere. So we are very careful with how we make those decisions. But this investment in the Tucka Future Food Hub is part of a broader portfolio and how we're thinking about cell ag and opportunities for Massachusetts. You mentioned like thinking strategically about manufacturing. My team and I, we think every single day, where does Massachusetts have value to add and a competitive advantage within manufacturing? I surprise people in Greater Boston all the time by saying that my job is to invest in manufacturing for the state, because many Boston residents have no idea how much manufacturing there is here. We have 6,000 manufacturing companies in Massachusetts, and it's about 10% of our GDP as a state. And everything that you can imagine is produced here. But other than commodities, plastics, and other very cheap goods that need to be produced on a remarkable level, there's a lot of opportunities for us to do stuff well. Specialized goods, precision goods, we have an incredible advantage there. So this is a space, Massachusetts is very gung-ho about cell ag. It's not a dirty word in Massachusetts. You're allowed to put it in your proposals when you ask us for funding, because we care about innovation, we care about community benefit, and we are not driven by political ideology. So I would just say big opportunities for this space, because we're bullish about how this can be produced here.
Thanks, Lily. And, maybe I'll transition to looking at some of the Slido. And these are awesome. I feel like I need to have a copy of these later. Some of them I'm like, tell me how to do what you're describing. But I feel like the first question about how does the Future Food Hub ensure that Boston's bioeconomy benefits local communities and food workers, not just startups and investors, you almost answered that in your last reply, Lily, which is like, by keeping manufacturing anchored at a certain respect in the Massachusetts ecosystem, that's how we make sure that everyone benefits. And I think that manufacturing component is invisible to a lot of people. And it's this kind of messaging that I think we need to come forward. I don't know if anybody has anything else to add on that one, or if we want to go down the list a little bit more. I know maybe we have time for one or two more questions.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to that. I mean, the goal of the hub is to bring people in from all over to Massachusetts to work in this space. Of course, it will be anchored by Tufts and the Kaplan Lab and some others that we can bring into the space, but we want to be a place where everyone can come nationally into the space to work on this. So it's not just, reinforcing what we have, but it's also expanding it and having people come in as well. So it's a little bit larger than just the local communities and what the impact it has there.
Great, thanks, Adam. Okay, so I like this top question a lot, and I almost am like, who did that? Raise your hand. Come talk to me later. Because working with Medford's local VocTech Culinary High School program, And if this is Susie, I mean, I feel like okay. This is the kind of thing that we're really hoping that the hub enables, is more integration with the community. That's exactly that, sort of going from centripetal to centrifugal. A hub really enables us to do that, and having something like a test kitchen is exactly what we need to enable these kind of partnerships. So if anyone has an idea on how to go about this, come talk to us. And okay, we have 1 minute. Martin, is anything calling to you?
What is needed for Massachusetts to become the national leader in alt protein innovation? I would say that Tufts University is very fortunate to be in Massachusetts, to be a member of this vibrant innovation ecosystem, broadly speaking. And Massachusetts is an amazing state with a wealth of resources that are being provided to proactively grow the ecosystem across industries. I think last year there was a commitment by the state to really double down and invest billions of dollars to further support, obviously, the life sciences space, but also to replicate that success across industries as well. And so I would say that the state itself is what truly helps make Massachusetts gives Massachusetts the opportunity to really allow a lot of these industries to perform and exist at a leading level in the country. So I would give a lot of props and kudos to the state and the state resources.
Okay, that's actually a perfect way to conclude. I don't know if anyone's seen my Team Massachusetts bracelet, but I completely agree with Martin there. Thanks so much for your time, and that'll bring us to a break now. So enjoy your coffee, your bio breaks, and we'll talk soon.